we got 13.6 is adjustment for change in law, and then we come to the next 13.7 is adjustments for change in cost. Normally in our practice, I mean locally in Vietnam, we try to award the contract as a lump sum contract, but under FCT red book, which seems to be a bit of like a mix between the red book and the yellow book, because as you know, red book is a remeasurement contract, and yellow book and silver book is lump sum. So for our practice, normally we do not allow for change in cost under 13.7 of the FCT book. So the contractor, basically the contractor will bear for any risk in the cost fluctuation of the contract for the whole duration of the project. Okay, so but that is the practice in local in Vietnam. But I mean, based on the principle of the red book contract, actually FCT stated that it should be fair, that the contract should be adjusted for any rise and fall or falls in the cost of the labor, goods, or I mean any input to the works itself. So you should know that I mean, so we should have adjustment for rise, which is additional cost, and falls, which is omission. That means if basically if the price increase, then the employer should pay more to the contractor, and if the price decrease, then the contractor will receive less. Yeah, so the employer pay less. So normally, why it will apply to what project? So according to the guidebook, I mean, if the project is particularly long, like 3 or 4 years, or even if some infrastructure, I mean, the mega project, it could take much longer. Then we should consider for the adjustment for in cost in terms of the inflation, because no contractor can I mean can allow for that in the cost, can make the allowance for such risk in the cost. Otherwise, I mean, even if we push that risk to them, they will probably estimate it like unnecessary high, and that cost actually can be avoidable to make the tender price more realistic. Yeah, and if the and also like if the inflation in a country is high as well, like for example in Vietnam, normally it would be expect the CPI or inflation is about 3 to 4% per year. Normally, then we should consider that one to include the adjustment for change in cost, so that I mean the tender price would be more real, and I mean the more competitive, and the I mean any adjustment in cost can be subsidized by the employer itself. And so it will come to the question of how are we going to adjust it. Okay, so the principle is we should adjust the cost for inflation, or I mean the any fluctuation in terms of cost. But then how we are going to do it? So according to the 1999, actually FCT did put a formula in this clause, but in 2017 they removed that clause, and they remove that formula, and they although that is recommended by in the guide, I mean the contractor and the employer should include that one in the contract as a part of the contract, to have a mechanism to adjust the cost for this I mean method. Basically, the rule is, okay, you have to break down the contract price, I mean the element subject to the fluctuation, into a certain component. Okay, so the cost, for example, you have a labor, you have material, you have equipment, and you have so each of that will account for, I mean, a certain percentage in terms of the total cost. So all those factors will be add up to 100%. And then, for example, like labor, you got 30%, material, you got like say 50%, and then equipment, you got 20%. And then labor, you will be going to be adjust how much. And then materials, you adjust how much, and then equipment, you adjust how much. Yeah, so you add those up, and you set the base index, which is at the time of the base date. And then you go for every month, you got to assess the index, the new index, to calculate the fluctuation. And then you have a formula to add them up. And then finally, you arrive at like what is the fluctuation cost, and then you apply it and you include it in the interim payment certificate. Yeah, so that is the mechanism for adjustment of cost in the FIDIC contract. Okay, so it also requires that the engineer, if you have I mean index to apply, then you got to the engineer will have to determine a provisional index for the to apply in the interim payment certificate. Yes, to pay for the contractor. Yeah, and also like the FIDIC also allow for if the contractor like extend beyond the time for completion, and then we have two different index. One is before 49 days before the time of for completion of the work, or I mean the current index, whichever is more favorable to the employer, and then we can apply. So it's quite, I mean, it's a formula, but it requires a lot of work and a lot of like definition on the all kind of index and percentage, and then the formula itself to arrive at the rate of fluctuation adjustment. I mean, as I said, in locally, when we acting, when we apply the lump sum to under the red book, then normally this clause we will we will remove it, and we push all the fluctuation cost to the contractor, who of course will have to bear all the risk of fluctuation if there's any. Yeah, so I mean, if any I mean, a speaker can can share your experience as well in terms of this clause from the point of practice in the countries, and that would be good. So basically, that is I would like to share on that fluctuation of course from the FIDIC books.